Alright, let's get started. Hello, and welcome to All Remaining Systems. It's just me, Michael, for this. I don't know, I just felt like making some more content for the YouTube channel. So, here I am talking about the Star Wars books that I currently own. Why did I choose this topic for today? Well, I just got a package of a lot of Star Wars books that I got on eBay. So, that it seemed appropriate, and I wanted to kind of share it. So, here we are. So I'm going to run down the canon and Legends books that I own right now, which ones I've read, and what I think of them generally speaking. So we're going to start off with the canon ones because I own less of them actually, but I have read more of them, I think. I don't know. I haven't actually counted it out. Anyway, I guess I'll find out by the end of editing this. So... Alright, first off, I'm going to start with the only one that I don't have, like, physically here with me right now, and that is Phasma. Phasma, I finished reading, like, 2 days ago. It is absolutely fantastic. I loved it. I thought it was great. I'd heard it was basically Mad Max and Star Wars mixed together, and then I read it, and I was like, yeah, it's pretty much just Mad Max and Star Wars mixed together. Cardinal's great. Loved Captain Cardinal as a character. I hope we see more of him in the future. I almost guarantee we will because of the positive reaction that book got. But yeah, I fully understand why people love Phasma now and are disappointed with how she's portrayed in the sequel trilogy. Let's see, what's up next? The one I read before Phasma was Lost Stars. This is easily one of the best Star Wars books I've ever read. If you want to get into Star Wars books, I think this may be the best place to start. I mean, it's a really easy read overall. It's meant as like I guess you would consider it a young adult book. I don't know. So it's not like challenging to get through. It's just really solid. The characters are so good. You get to see the original trilogy from the perspective of just two like normal soldiers, basically. And I thought that was just really interesting. Absolutely love the character of Nash Windrider in that. He was the most interesting part of that book to me. I won't spoil it for those who intend on reading it, but I really just found myself so fascinated with him, given the events that happened in his life. So, yeah, Lost Stars is fantastic. Absolutely loved it. So next up, we got another fantastic book that I absolutely love, Thrawn. Now we're going to get into my very complicated views on Thrawn and the Thrawn trilogy a little later on, but I love Thrawn as a character, and this book delivered. I love what they've been doing with Thrawn in the new canon. He is so fascinating, not just as a character, but... he brings a new perspective to Star Wars, because Star Wars can be very mystical. Thrawn is very grounded, which I think works really well in this book, especially. I love the character of Eli Vanto. I think he plays off of Thrawn really well. It's definitely a tougher read, and it's a lot longer than most Star Wars books, but it's worth it. It's so good. I love Thrawn as a character. Love what they did with him in Rebels, too. Lars Mikkelsen's fantastic. Actually, if you're interested in Star Wars audiobooks, Thrawn is a great audiobook also, because Mark Thompson does a near perfect impression of Lars Mikkelsen's Thrawn. So, if you're interested, feel free to check that out. And then we got the first Star Wars book I ever got on release day, and that is Thrawn Alliances. I did not like this one as much as the first Thrawn. I thought it was still really good. Timothy Zahn's, of course, still a great author, and he knows how to write Thrawn for sure, but I don't know, I just didn't really... It didn't grip me as much. I wasn't as invested in the story. I started off liking the Clone Wars plot a lot better in that book. I really liked Thrawn's interactions with Anakin and sort of the mystery that was developing there. But as the book went on, I actually came around to the Vader and Thrawn plot a lot more. I liked their interplay a whole lot. I liked the kind of perspective we get on Vader and how he viewed Anakin as, you know, the Jedi and all that. And I really liked some of the developments of what they've done with like the Chiss ascendancy and the revelations about their children and whatnot. That all was really, really interesting to me. It was a great read. Don't regret it at all, for sure. It's definitely worth reading, but just not up to par with the first Thrawn. Next up, we got Ahsoka, and Ahsoka is all right. It's pretty solid. It's nothing too great. It's not entirely necessary to read, I don't think. There's some insights into like where she was during Order 66 and where Maul was during Order 66. But now I'm not sure if we're actually going to be getting that in the new season of Clone Wars or not. So, I mean, it's still good. If you're interested in Ahsoka, it's definitely worth a read. I enjoy Ahsoka. I think she's a good character. But I'm not as invested as a whole lot of other people are. But yeah, it was good. I think my favorite thing about it was what the new canon has done with the lore about kyber crystals and like how the Sith bleed them and all that. When the book was first came out, I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. But what they've done with it since then is so good. That Vader comic where he bleeds his lightsaber crystal is, that's one of the best Star Wars moments, I think, of all time. Absolutely fantastic. Now, the Star Wars book I am currently reading is Inferno Squad. You can see I'm using a Yu-Gi-Oh card as a bookmark because it's convenient. I own a lot of trading cards, so I got to do something with them. So. But yeah, I'm really excited to learn about Inferno Squad because I really enjoyed the campaign of Star Wars Battlefront 2. It had its problems for sure. Mostly I don't feel it was marketed correctly, and I feel like Aiden's turn happens a bit too early on in the story, and there's some fan service issues. But other than that, I really enjoyed it, and it, I think, brought a new perspective, and I'm really excited to see how this book develops those characters even more, because I think after I read that, I'm probably going to play through the campaign again, because I feel like with the additions of this, it will, I don't know, give me more insight into those characters. And so the last canon book that I bought, but I have not read yet, and plan to read somewhat soon, is Canto Bight. Because it is a necessary plotline in The Last Jedi and crucial defense character, and I don't care what you say, it's great. No, but seriously, I'm looking forward to this because I've kind of heard it's basically just Pulp Fiction and Star Wars, and so far the movie mashups with Star Wars into book form have been pretty good, so I'll give this one a shot. Especially, you know, I like the sort of scum and villainy of the galaxy, the criminal aspect, as you can see with our Edge of the Empire series. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to reading this soon. So many Star Wars books. So let's start off with getting a lot of people to hate me. First up, we got Heir to the Empire. Obviously, to most Expanded Universe fans, this book may as well be the Holy Bible. People will live and die, swear by the Thrawn trilogy. It's alright. Here's the thing. When I think Star Wars, you know, I think, you know, the mystical stuff of the Force and all that, a bunch of mumbo-jumbo. The Thrawn trilogy can be very technical, very techno-babbly. And that's fine. There's definitely a place for that in Star Wars, and Thrawn's a great antagonist in that way. But I don't really care for it when I see, like, Han, Luke, and Leia, like, existing in that, I guess, hyper-specific world. I don't know, it just doesn't really appeal to me, doesn't really grab me. But that should not diminish either the quality of this book. This is just my opinion on it. I mean, I acknowledge this is a great book. And also, this book is single-handedly responsible for saving Star Wars, I think. You almost can't even argue that. I mean, this kept interest in Star Wars alive and revived the Expanded Universe, all that good stuff. People have said that, you know, a million ways better than I can, so... Yeah, my opinion on this is pretty irrelevant. I'm a new canon kid, if you will, so... What are you gonna do? It's still good. Read it. Next up is two books I don't own anymore. I think I, like, lended them to some people at some point and just never got them back. And and that's the Bane trilogy. I only still have Dynasty of Evil, but yeah, let's get into more controversial opinions I have, why don't we? The Bane trilogy is great. Series of great books, great insights about the Sith. Only the first one's really necessary. Path of Destruction is easily the best of the series, and I feel like after the destruction of the Sith Order and the foundation of the Rule of Two, the rest doesn't really matter all that much. Like, we still get to see great stuff with Bane, and we get to find out more about Xana, but I don't know, you could have just stopped after the first one. I didn't really need the other two. Like, I'm glad we got them. They're good, but did I need them? Not really. But yeah, Path of Destruction, I think, is actually one of the best Star Wars books ever written. And you know, speaking of the Sith, this may be my favorite Star Wars book of all time. Yes, Darth Plagueis. I have indeed heard the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise in audiobook form, and I've actually, read the book. I only recently got actually a physical copy of this because I actually owned it digitally. But now I own it physically, and I may actually read through it again sometime soon, because this book is absolutely fantastic. Connects to the prequels in a lot of great ways, something that is not always a good thing, but... no, I'm kidding. But, yeah, this book's just great. Plagueis is such an interesting character and has such a different perspective on the Force. Which I know I just got done saying I don't like Star Wars being too, scientific. It's more space fantasy than science fiction. And Plagueis is almost like science fictionifying the Force by, clarifying stuff on midichlorians and all that. And you can view this book as, a retcon of the entire Star Wars prequels, in a way. But I think it really works. And it added some great insight. Now, obviously, after reading a book like this and saying it's my favorite Star Wars book of all time, probably. I mean, it's hard to tell. There's so many good ones. I feel obligated to say that the theory that Snoke is Plagueis is terrible, because I think everyone who talks about that theory doesn't actually understand the character of Plagueis. Because the whole point of his character was that, he was so arrogant to believe himself to be immortal. If he actually was immortal, then he's just not interesting anymore. It's just, okay, he was the biggest, strongest boy. That's cool. No, he was overly arrogant. Plagueis the Wise was a name that Palpatine gave him to mock him for his arrogance. This book's great. Read it. Oh, boy. I'm regretting this video now. It seems like it's just a series of controversial opinions from Michael. So, hey, maybe Matt will be your new favorite host of All Remaining Systems. Next up, we got the Republic Commando series. We'll start off with Hard Contact. Actually, we'll start off with the video game. The video game's great. It's easily one of the best Star Wars shooters of all time. I keep saying that a lot. The best Star Wars blank of all time. There's a lot of good Star Wars stuff. It's hard for me to say. I think of stuff, and I'm like, oh, that may be my favorite. And I think of a whole bunch of other stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's really good too. That may be my favorite. There's a lot of good Star Wars stuff to go around. That's why I like it so much, and why I have my own podcast about it. But yeah, Hard Contact. I read this several years ago. This is kind of what got me back into reading Star Wars books. It's really good. I don't remember a whole lot else about it. I just remember really liking it, and this being the only book in the series that I liked. I know I'm not alone in that. There's a lot of people who have some things to say about Karen Travis's work, and Karen Travis had some things to say about those people too. So there were heroes on both sides. Next in the series, we had 000. I did not like it at all. When I read it, I thought it was very boring. Got very melodrama-y. And let's just be real. I didn't like it. It's bad. And the whole reason I was reading this series to begin with is because of this book right here, Order 66. I saw that this book existed, and it got my brain going, and I was like, oh, Order 66 from like a clone's perspective. Like I never thought of that, as a middle schooler. And I was like, oh, I should read this whole series so I can, read this book and understand it. And I was like, first book, really good. Well on my way to reading Order 66. And I read 000 and I was like, okay, I'm going to skip the next one and go straight to Order 66. So I don't even own, what is it, True Colors, or I think is what it's called. I don't know. It's been a while. And I don't even own Imperial Commando either. This is my least favorite Star Wars book that I've read. I think it's very melodrama-y. Order 66 doesn't even come into play until like the last 50 pages of the book or something like that. It feels like, pardon my crudity, but it just feels like Karen Traviss is jerking off to Mandalorians the entire time. Like, I swear to God, every other word in this book is like Mando slang. And I'm just not into it. It's just cringy. A whole bunch of people have criticized Karen Traviss for worshiping the Mandos more or less and putting them above, the Jedi and the Sith and all that. And yeah, they're kind of right. It's just a waste of a good concept. Order 66 from a clone's perspective, but what do I know? Alrighty, so I lost the cover thing for this one, but this is the Force Unleashed novelization. I don't remember getting this. Apparently I got this when I was a youngster, in like middle school or something. And I'm sure I've read through some, if not all of it, at one point or another, so I don't really have anything to say other than, yeah, I own it. And now in terms of novels, there's also a couple other ones that I think I've owned like digitally or whatever, but I don't actually own physically. I can't think of any worth mentioning at the moment. So anyway, let's move on to one I've purchased and I've yet to read, but is really close up on my reading list, and that's Kenobi. If we are going to get an Obi-Wan Kenobi spin-off movie, as a lot of rumors seem to suggest and just kind of assume is true, which as far as I know, there's still been no confirmation on it. I've also just heard this is a really good book, and it seems like a nice, simple Star Wars tale that I feel like I will really enjoy, that will bridge the gap between the movies. So, next up we got some really cool ones, some really interesting books, and I actually have to get one because the series is not complete until I grab this other one that I placed over here. So these books are interesting. These are books written from like an in-universe perspective. We've got the Imperial Handbook, the Bounty Hunter Code, the Book of Sith, and the Sacred Jedi Texts, the Jedi Path. These books are great. I basically use these as source books for my Star Wars RPG, because there's a lot of great like insider information, lots of good fun Easter eggs too. I greatly enjoy these. They're well worth the money. They're so well detailed, both in terms of like the characters writing notes in there, and like the pages are textured and all that stuff. Like the Book of Sith especially, because it's like made up of a bunch of Sith tomes like in canon, so there's like 6 or 7 different like page types in there. It's really neat. This whole series of books is really great. So if you're interested in that, those are good ones. So next up, the reason I kind of decided to do this video is because I ordered a couple of Star Wars books on eBay. May or may not have spent about $40 on 18 books. So first off, we've got probably the topic of 6 future episodes, the true Star Wars saga. We have the Jedi Prince series, which consists of The Glove of Darth Vader, The Lost City of the Jedi, Zorba the Hutt's Revenge, Mission from Mount Yoda, Queen of the Empire, and Prophets of the Dark Side, which, if I recall correctly, this may actually be the first Star Wars book I've ever read as a wee lad. But these books, not to give away my thoughts on them, these books are hilarious, well worth reading. You can tell I've been very amused with this series because I read the Glove of Darth Vader, and I was just like, we need to cover this on podcast. Like right now, my profile picture on our All Remaining Systems Twitter is Trioculus, because that whole series of shenanigans is ridiculous, and I love it. But then the package I received today contained many Star Wars books, almost none of which I've read. So we're going to start off just showing a couple of them off. We got The Crystal Star, widely considered one of, if not the worst Star Wars book ever written. I've seen Austin McConnell's video on this, and it is hilarious. I'll read this at some point, I'm sure, but probably not anytime soon, because it's a bit long, and I imagine it will contain much pain and suffering for myself. If into the Crystal Star you go, only pain will you find. Yeah, also these books are in like surprisingly good condition. I expected, because I got them used, they'd be a little like beaten up. But I mean, aside from like the creases in the bag, they're really not that bad. I am pleasantly surprised. Next up, we got Shadows of the Empire. Now, I was not born during the whole Shadows of the Empire craze, the multimedia event, as it were. I've not played the video game, but I am aware of the whole marketing campaign, I guess you would call it. I don't know. But yeah, I'll probably read this at some point. You know, I don't have like a set reading list planned. And I don't really have a whole lot to say about books I haven't read. So this part of the video will probably be much more repetitive and much faster. Next we got The Truce at Bakura, which appeals to the inner Yu-Gi-Oh fan within me. And then we've got good old Darksaber, another notoriously fantastic Star Wars book that people love. Who doesn't want another Death Star? We got so many super weapons in Star Wars, and every one of them's great. Darksaber, number 1 on my top 10 best anime deaths. And then we got The Courtship of Princess Leia, which is a book that I'm sure has not aged well based off what I've heard of it. And then, oh boy, we got Jedi Search, Dark Apprentice, and Champions of the Force. I really like that name, Champions of the Force. So when I ordered all these books, I would assume that this was a good series of books, because I mean, it was called the Jedi Academy Trilogy, and I feel like I'd seen these books in a whole lot of like bookstores and stuff. Like, they always seemed to be in the Star Wars section, so I just assumed that these were probably good. And then I've heard that they're really not. I don't know. I'll probably read them at some point and give them a shot. See if they really deserve their reputation, but we'll see. And then we got Children of the Jedi. Do I actually even know anything about this? Oh, is this the one where like Luke falls in love with like a ghost or something that possesses his student? I don't know. I don't know. Here's my official review of Children of the Force. I don't know. Children of the Force, Children of the Jedi. So finally we have the entire Thrawn trilogy. Yeah, I now have... I guess I should show off The Last Command as well. Yeah, I have 2 copies of Heir to the Empire now, so I'll probably give one of these to like Matt or Kirk, maybe even Skylar. But yeah, I have technically not actually read Dark Force Rising or The Last Command. I've read the comic adaptations of these, because after I got through Heir to the Empire, I was like, you know what, that was pretty good, but it was really long, and I didn't love it, so I didn't really want to read through the other two. So I just got the comic adaptations because I figured it'd be faster, and it probably was in the long run. But as a result, those comic adaptations are very text-heavy, which is not always the greatest for comic books, in my opinion. I'm no expert, but yeah, I still enjoyed them. So yeah, that's the Star Wars books that I own physically. There's a few more I own digitally, like Catalyst and Tarkin and Aftermath, and I'm only listing canon ones. Maul Lockdown. Maul Lockdown's a really great Legends book that I only own digitally. So hey, do you think I'm wrong about everything I've said here? Why don't you leave a comment or share this video with your friends so that they can all agree on how wrong I am about my opinions on the Thrawn trilogy and Karen Travis's writing and the Bane trilogy and the new canon, and maybe tell me if you love the Jedi Prince series, please. I love this series too, and I genuinely mean that from a certain point of view. Or hey, if you happen to enjoy this for some reason, why don't you check out some of our other videos in which we actually say some meaningful stuff, like our podcast, or if you enjoy role-playing games, you can listen to us play Star Wars Edge of the Empire. Or better yet, if you like video games, you can watch this video of us playing through the Phantom Menace levels in LEGO Star Wars. I had a joy editing that. And then also we got us playing Sabak in character from Edge of the Empire. All this available on this here YouTube channel. Check it out. As for us, and by us I mean me, and I think that about wraps this up. So remember to support your local First Order. Down with you, resistant scum. Many Bothans died to bring you this podcast. This is not a podcast. I really should probably remove this part or alter this part to better fit the video this is. And all remaining systems will bow to the First Order.